letting the sound of the bell arrive to the ears, letting the sound of the spontaneously barking dog arrive to the ears, the invitation to come to the present moment. Honoring the teachings of the awakened ones, honoring the Buddha whose teachings we've been exposed to, Shakyamuni Buddha, and the other Buddhas before him. But in the Shakyamuni Buddha's life, the teachings were able to be written down. It wasn't just all verbal. Well, it was all verbal when he was teaching, but several hundred years later, as it was passed amongst the monks, it got written down. And so that's part of our joy and privilege of having them last for 2,600 more years to make it to our ears and to our heart. As we sit together, as we study together, as we embrace each other and understand the suffering caused by biases and prejudices, oppression based on race and sex and class and age and ethnicity, systems of power and privilege, gender identity or expression, various religious viewpoints and national origin, understanding that there are barriers that can be dismantled, and we can do it one breath at a time within ourselves, aspiring to do no harm. Knowing that our liberation is interconnected with the liberation of all. And welcoming each other, whatever our background is, and acknowledging those indigenous peoples whose, in this area, the region of the ancestral lands of the Malala, the Multnomah, the Chinook, the Kalapuya, the many confederated tribes of the Grand Ronde, and the many confederated tribes of the Cowlitz and the Siletz. Respectfully acknowledging and honoring all indigenous communities, past, present, and future, and being grateful for their ongoing and their vibrant presence. And so we know we have the support of elders and our lineage, all of those beings traced back through generations and generations, so that we might still receive the simple teachings of settling into the body, settling into the breath, bringing the heart and mind together in this present moment. Or maybe with mindfulness being present, we're noticing that they aren't exactly together. Maybe there's a lot of thinking going on and it seems far away out into the atmosphere outside of you. But there might be other places in the body that we can ground ourselves with the gravity of feet on the floor and the noticing of pressure, heat, warmth, whatever else is particularly noticeable just by you. This is your time with yourself as we are in the company of each other, but allowing mindfulness to be at the fore. Being aware of whatever comes into the mind or any of the sense doors. We can notice pleasant and unpleasant sensations arising. In the body and in the mind. And we can always return to the breath, the importance of the breath, the importance of being with the breath, arising, staying for a time period that we are present with, and passing away. This really connects us to the understanding of impermanence, and that really connects us to our understanding of the first noble truth that suffering, disappointment, that dukkha exists, because we can see it directly. If we grasp at something and it's changing, we notice disappointment. We have disappointment if we're pushing something away that we wish wasn't happening. We can have pleasant sensations arise that we grasp onto, wishing that they would stay. And all of this mindfulness is seeing clearly with awareness, because this is the nature of what happens to us being born human. But with mindfulness and awareness present, we can have that view of embracing what's happening and stepping back to see it from the larger picture. But we're present when things arise. We hold them gently in kindness. We hold ourselves gently with goodwill, with true kindness that isn't attached to some finite idea of love that's dependent on certain conditions. It's an openness, completely unconditional, spacious feeling of well-being that we are held in. And sometimes we can put our hands on our hearts and really allow a kind of kindness to be present. As they always say in everybody's description about loving kindness, puppies, dogs, babies, whatever it is that brings you to a sense of easeful kindness, that we may be at ease in the process of holding ourselves and being present with what's arising and passing away, coming together and falling apart. We have these moments of mindfulness one right after the other, as quickly as we can notice them, while holding ourselves in this spaciousness of kindness. And so we'll sit for a while. You always know my instructions. You've heard them enough times. We'll just let ourselves do our own process of mindfulness arising, awareness being present. Wisdom comes along with it to notice skillful or unskillful thinking or thoughts that arise, intention that arises, the view that arises. We can notice and let go what might be not as healthful and beneficial, and keep inclining our hearts and minds toward kindness, compassion, being in the present moment, to greet and see clearly what causes our grasping and clinging, and how we might understand that second noble truth, that this dukkha happens because of craving. We're craving for something in the next moment. And that there is, in fact, the third step, freedom. There is, in fact, nibbana, there is freedom. And in the fourth step of the Four Noble Truths is the path, the Eightfold Path. And so here we have an openness to the first two, that of really right view, of seeing for ourselves the Four Noble Truths, and right understanding, seeing clearly thoughts that arise, intentions that arise, to be our authentic self, letting go of what doesn't serve us. So may we be present to ourselves and what is arising and passing. And as we stay with this rising and passing away, may we remind ourselves that we are worth the quiet moment, As Morgan Harper Nichols says, you are worth the deeper breath. You are worth the time it takes to slow down, be still, and rest. And we are sitting in this kindness and in this courage of loving ourselves, this willingness to stay connected to what's happening, to something that no one else can see. It keeps us in the world, and it's our realization of our own self-worth, giving ourselves kindness, loving ourselves for just being who we are. And when we get lost in thought or confusion or sleepiness or busy thinking, we just wake up in that moment and begin again, coming to the breath, noticing I am breathing in. This is my breath. I am breathing in. It is our home. I am breathing out. I notice it. Where do I notice it? What does it feel like where I'm noticing it? This is the present moment. Not attaching to thoughts about the future, not rambling about thoughts about the past, just present in the breath, in the body. Relaxing the body, heart, and mind in our seated place, letting the eyes and face soften, letting the shoulders relax. Letting the bones sit on top of each other, holding us up. Being appreciative of this body, whatever it goes through. Feeling ourselves within the body of our breath as it breathes us without controlling it, but we can notice that it's long or short. Or maybe if there's tiredness in the body, you can take an extra big breath or a shorter, quicker breath series just to begin again and be present. Or if there's racing in the mind, we can take longer breaths, calmer breaths, and still be present with what's happening. Returning again gently, easefully to the present moment. What is happening right now? What is the attitude of the mind, of the heart? Can we hold ourselves fully in kindness, or just with the simplicity of remembering something that we feel comfortable in, a place that helps us feel spacious, joyous, open, brings us happiness. The momentary idea of happiness, of course, but it uplifts the heart and mind. May we hold ourselves in this gentleness. May I be at ease. Or whatever way you can hold this feeling of well-being. And inclining our hearts and minds in this manner, we're exercising that muscle of loving kindness, of goodness. Inclining the heart and mind in right thinking toward the intention of generosity, non-harming, toward kindness, toward compassion. These wisdom factors are the foundation of this path. May I have well-being, kindness for myself. May I hold myself gently. And maybe others come into our circle, but it's not necessary to move on, to let another being, a friend, a teacher, a neighbor, a family member. You can see if someone else joins your circle of well-wishing, of just keeping our hearts open. We can notice that closure occurs, and we can step back into that spaciousness of remembering what brings us into a heart space. holding ourselves and another, if we inclined in that direction, in these feelings of well-being. And may I be free from ill will. And so in general, in the Metta Sutta and in the Metta practice chants, we include ourselves and other beings. We include them in all directions. We include them in kindness, in compassion, in equanimity, and in joy. But part of the reason we do it in these little categories is so that we can foster this sense of connectedness to ourselves and others, and it develops the thoughts of kindness in a concentration practice. The Buddha didn't teach it in all those categories. It was taught much more generally for all beings. But it's been found by developing these ways of including others, we tend to not just skip over, because it's a lot easier to imagine all beings being happy. It's such a broad category. And sometimes it's a little harder when we have to envision a close friend that we might have some judgments about, but we want them to be happy. Or it's harder with a neutral person because we don't know anything about them. Or it's really hard if you ever get to the difficult person. So either way, as we practice it as a sort of an exercise, we're developing more depth in the practice. But in the reflections on universal well-being, we do it for ourselves and for everyone, and we include really understanding that freedom from suffering is understanding causes and effects, actions that inherit results, whether they are skillful or harmful, that we are the owners of our actions. And so we hold ourselves in kindness, in well-wishing for ourselves and others. May I abide in well-being, in freedom from affliction, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may I maintain well-being in myself. May everyone abide in well-being, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may they maintain well-being in themselves. May all beings be released from all suffering, and may they not be parted from the good fortune they have attained. When they act upon intention, all beings are the owners of their action and inherit its results. Their future is born from such action, companion to such action, and its results will be their home. All actions with intention, be they skillful or harmful, of such acts they will be the heirs. Acting with intention. All conditioned things arise and pass away. And seeing this clearly with mindfulness brings the greatest happiness, which is peace. May we find stability. May we abide in well-being. May we continue exploring the feelings of friendliness that lie at the heart of the practices of loving kindness and compassion, equanimity and sympathetic joy. This friendly wish to open the heart in a simple and easy way, to open to universal well-being. Keeping ourselves grounded in love. How can we help in our responses to the chaos around us? The answer always begins with the opening of the heart. Thank you for your practice. May it be of great benefit to you and all beings. And may you really see that happening, understand it happening, and knowing it for yourself.